So today we are making some cinnamon rolls, and I'm going to mill some wheat. We're going to do part whole wheat flour and part white. So I'm going to use our Nutri-Mill here. We are going to start out, I'm going to throw some yeast, some warm, actually I'm doing pretty hot water because I want the dough to ferment rapidly today. And I'm going to do a little bit of the flour. I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. Got my yeast, got 1 cup of hot water. And then, so the yeast goes crazy, I'm going to throw my cup of brown sugar in. And then I'm also going to do, these are going to be partially whole grain, partially white flour. I'm using Heath's Best 12% protein. And my wheat, my whole grain flour is ground pretty coarse. I'm going to put this in first for a couple of reasons. The main reason is if you get your wheat flour in first, it'll soak up a lot of the moisture, and it'll be more of like a chewy and moist texture rather than something dry, which is not what we want with whole grain stuff. So here we go. Alright, so right now it's not super important that we do a lot of mixing, but we do want everything incorporated so we don't have any bunches of yeast hanging around, chilling. So I'm going to get all that flour, that wheat flour soaking, and make sure we're just all incorporated. Got some chunks in there, that's fine. Okay, and we're going to let that sit for just a few minutes. We're going to beat a couple of eggs and throw those bad boys into the dough. So I get a little egg white on my phone, awesome. 3, 4, I always count out loud, otherwise I'll forget, lose track. 5, 6 total. And I'm going to short it 1 cup. I always short the recipe just to make sure, because I can always add more, but I don't like adding water to the dough. Okay, so there's our 2 more cups of hot water. Once this starts to mix, like I was saying, I'll add more flour, but I don't want to add more water. So I'll get my lid so we don't have a flour volcano. Okay, so at this point we've got our yeast, all of our hot water, all of the flour. There was that point where we did what I call a sponge, where we're letting the yeast, the sugar, and some of the flour ferment, get crazy. We put that in with the whole grain flour so it could soak up that moisture and give us a chewy rather than a dry texture. Then we let that sit for a few minutes, let the yeast do its thing, and we add the rest of the water and the salt. When you put the salt in, that's going to slow the fermentation down and also give it some savory taste. If you forget the salt, the yeast will go crazy. It'll taste kind of like alcohol-y. We don't want that. And you'll have a hot dough. So now we are to the point, we've got all the flour in, the salt, we mixed up the dough. We let it mix for about 4 minutes. That gives us good gluten formation. We didn't use any extra gluten, just the formation of those proteins that were in the wheat that we used. And I think we've got a pretty good dough. We're gonna let it rise for 30 minutes. I'm gonna get a big glass bowl because part of doing cinnamon rolls successfully, I like to dump the dough out in a way that we're not kneading it or destroying it. We're letting it stay slightly risen and really soft and malleable. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little flour in here, a little wheat, a little white. Take this bad boy out. throw a towel on top of that. I like to get a hot, wet towel. It's not gonna stay hot, but it'll give us some good humidity, which proofing bread likes. We're in Utah, so we're in a desert. This will give us a little more humid environment in that bowl, be better for proofing bread. All right, now we're gonna make the gack that goes inside the cinnamon rolls. I call it gack, that's what it is. It's a super fancy culinary term. So most of it's brown sugar. So I'm gonna start with 2 cups of brown sugar. And I'll smash those up because I want it nice and smooth. And then the secret ingredient in the brown sugar and cinnamon mixture that goes in cinnamon rolls is actually more flour. So I put 2 cups of brown sugar in. I'm gonna do a 1/2 cup of flour. Let me see how that feels. Yep. And then I'm gonna do, some people don't put cinnamon in their cinnamon rolls, which I find crazy. I'm gonna do a tablespoon of cinnamon, a tablespoon and a 1/2 of cinnamon, and there we go. I'm just gonna mix that up, and then after we roll out the dough, we'll throw this on with some butter or butter substitute. So I'm busting up these brown sugar bundles of joy, and I forgot to tell you why the flour is the secret ingredient. So when we put the butter or butter substitute in on the cinnamon roll dough that we roll out, the flour is gonna keep a lot of the cinnamon sugar mixture in the roll so that when it bakes, it doesn't all fall down to the bottom of the pan and caramelize. So a little bit of caramelization is good, but I like to have it in the roll. So we have our dough has risen nicely, and I'm gonna make these dairy-free for me, so I'm gonna use a rich and creamy Melt Organic. It's mostly made with coconut oil, and I usually like put a little salt in because it is kind of sweet. So I'm gonna go ahead, bust that out. And I'm gonna use probably around a 1/2 of this tub. And this tub is 13 ounces. So you don't wanna be shy with the butter if you're using butter. Whatever you use, don't be shy with it, because this is what makes it delicious. Okay, I'm gonna nuke this. And you don't want to over nuke anything, because then you will, well, burnt butter is just no bueno. So, got that. And then you can either use oil or flour to roll out the dough. I'm gonna use flour today. Bam. Got my rolling pin. A little flour. So I'm gonna make a square of flour. Let's see if you can see this. Okay. A little bit more. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's a pointer for you. When you're rolling out dough, you want to put a little more flour in the middle, because the dough right here is going to travel out to the edges. So you need more flour in the middle. So, and then I might add some as I go. We'll see. And then I usually just run my fingers through it. It makes me feel special. All right, here's our dough. Let's scrape this bad boy down. All right, here's another pointer. You don't want to knead the dough as you bring it out. You want it to stay soft and kind of airy. If you mash it up all into a loaf, then it'll be harder to roll out. So I'm just gonna scrape the sides down. Boom. And then I'm gonna turn it over. Just kind of let it out. Bam. Muchas gracias. So that looks good. And then I'm gonna pull the corners out. A very wise man once said, if you get the corners, you'll be sure to get the middle. So here we go. So always keep your corners. If you start to get a circle, it's gonna be no bueno. Okay, I kind of set myself up a little close to that stove top. Scoot over. There we go, nice. Recovered. And don't feel bad if you can't do a really awesome rectangle, because it takes a lot of practice and it's not necessarily like totally necessary to get a rectangle, because it's still gonna taste good, and that's what the important part is. Okay, so I'm feeling this. I got a little hole right there, uh-oh. Instead of pinching it, you're gonna patch it. Grab a little spot from the corner. I'm gonna feel it. I'm a little thin right here. I'm a little thick right here. So I'm just gonna adjust it like that. Then I'm gonna take my coconut oil goodness. Get those solids in there, whatever that stuff is. Spread it over. Oh boy, oh boy. So make sure it's not boiling hot before you put your hand in it. And then when I do this, I get everywhere except for what my top edge is gonna be. I'm gonna leave that just barely not covered. And I will show you why. Okay, so we got a good amount of yummy stuff on there. Now comes the real yummy stuff, our cinnamon sugar flour mixture. We're gonna put it on. You might need a little more. Uh-oh, yep, I'm gonna need some more. So what you want is, you want a lot of this yummy stuff because, and you wanna be able to see some dry patches still. So I'm gonna grab the brown sugar and the cinnamon. Here's my cinnamon. And then I got my flour. Oh yeah, this is gonna be good. So obviously we're thinking, all these bakers out here are thinking ratios. So yes, we're gonna have to put more of everything on. I'm just gonna use the force on this one. And spread some cinnamon, throw a little flour in there. Okay. And then since you don't want, I just rub stuff kind of all the way to the edges. Bam. Because no one wants the butt end of a cinnamon roll with nothing on it. Okay, so cinnamon is a spice. Anyone that's had cinnamon alone knows that. It's very strong and it can be spicy, but a little bit goes a long ways. So delicious though. Something that goes well with cinnamon is chocolate. We all remember that from coffee cake. Okay, I'm feeling good. Getting the corners, okay. I'm gonna put a little flour on there. Ooh, I'm gonna wanna mix that up. Okay. It's gonna keep our yummy stuff in there. And I'm just gonna give it a little rub down. Uh-oh, that's going on the floor, sorry. All right, now we're ready to roll it up. When we're rolling, you don't wanna go super aggro. I've got this pretty thin. If it was thicker, you know, you're gonna have to keep in mind how thick your dough is and how much you roll it for your portioning. So this is about probably just shy of 24 inches. This is like 20 inches deep. So this first part, I'm just gonna fold it over. Bam, just a little fold. Second roll, just a little fold. And then after that, I'm gonna start to tighten it up. These first ones, when I cut it, I will explain why we did the first couple rolls nice and easy. It has to do with rising out and inside of the oven. I need some more sugar right there. Get them corners. Okay, so we're staying nice and uniform. We got like the same thickness pretty much through the whole roll. That is awesome. All right, so we are just a little bigger in the middle. So I'm gonna give myself a little more space. I'm just gonna adjust it just really easy. So you don't wanna be super aggressive with that. Okay. All right, so there we go. There's our roll. A lot of people use floss or a piece of string to cut the cinnamon roll. I just like to use a knife. That's what we're gonna do today. So, I've got a couple of jelly roll pans. I'm gonna clean that off. Keep our oven clean. I'm gonna go parchment paper. I'm gonna get a lightly serrated knife. I'm gonna use my Wusthof panini knife. Also good for cutting sandwiches. Hello. And I'm gonna cut these about 1.5 to 2 inches wide. Ooh, a little big. So if you do get to a place where the roll is thick, this guy's gonna take a lot longer to bake. But if you get to a place where it's thick, you can cut the rolls a little thinner so they bake at the same, for the same time as the other ones. This is gonna be so delicious. Bam. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay, so let's talk about that mysterious bit of cinnamon roll that I didn't butter. So there it is. There's my little dry bit of dough. So that's gonna keep our cinnamon roll. As it proofs, this dough is gonna stick together. So it's not gonna unwrap. I also told you about folding the first little bit of the dough. When you fold the first little bit of the dough, as this rises and that spiral gets tighter inside, that's gonna give it just a little bit of breathing room, and it'll keep that center from popping up. So we like that. Okay, with this size roll, I'm gonna just go 3 wide, and let's see how many across we go. I'm gonna go 3 by 5. That'll be good spacing for me. There's a big chunk of yumminess. Okay, there you go. We're gonna let those proof for, we want them to almost be like touching when we put them in the oven. So we have some more right here, but I'm still gonna pack them in just as tight so they bake the same way as the other ones. If we give them a ton of room and space them out evenly, they're all gonna bake as individual cinnamon rolls rather as one like cohesive baked good bundle of joy. There's our 2 ends. They're gonna still be awesome because we got the carners. I'm gonna put them in the middle. Maybe they'll bake just a little slower than those guys on the outside. Okay, there we go. We're gonna let them proof. We have been proofing or rising our cinnamon rolls, and they're starting to kiss. Kiss is a gentle baking term. Show you what's up. So they're double the size. This is a kiss. After they come out of the oven, they'll have like a little mark on them. That's a kiss mark. They'll probably all be slammed together actually. So I've got the oven at 400. I'm gonna throw these bad boys in. I'm gonna do a no-no and just use both racks because my oven is rocking. These are gonna be delicious. I'm gonna set the timer for 16 minutes and see where we're at, and then I'll teach you how to check them. All right, guys, now we are going to make the glaze. You can make frosting, look it up. With a frosting is something with dairy in it, like butter or cheese. We're just gonna make a glaze, simply water, powdered sugar, and some vanilla. So, I'm not gonna measure this, but I bet it's about 6 cups. Yep, I'm gonna go with 6 cups. And then I've got some hot water right here. And just be careful when you're doing this, a little bit goes a long ways. If you dump too much water in, you'll have to add massive amounts of powdered sugar. So watch out for that. I do about 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. You don't have to use freaking awesome vanilla, but this Nielsen Massey Madagascar vanilla is really tasty. Plus you see those vanilla bean specks in there, and it makes you look totally legit and feel good. Do a little more. So delicious. Okay. So we're just gonna whisk this up. I am using a Good Grips or OXO stainless steel mixing bowl. I like it because it's got this sweet rubber stuff, so you can grip it goodly, just like their name, but it also sticks on your counter too. And it's a lot more substantial than a normal stainless steel bowl. So I'm just doing a little bit of water at a time. That is looking good. It's probably gonna stiffen up just a tad, so I'm gonna put just a few drops in. That's good. Easy. All right, we're good to go. There's our glaze. Okay, those cinnamon rolls are gonna be loving this stuff. All right, so our timer went off. We're gonna check these out. Oh boy, the top rack is busy done. Let's check these ones on the bottom. Oh, yeah. So the way I'm gonna check is I'm gonna take my little paring knife and I'm gonna look for the biggest, juiciest one, probably on the middle. If this middle one is done, and they're all done. Yeah, so see how that dough tore away, didn't pull away? That's gonna be the last part of the cinnamon roll to bake. Right in there on the top middle. Perfect, done. Oh. Yes. Okay, we'll let them cool and we'll throw some glaze on them. We've let the cinnamon rolls cool a little bit and rest. They never cool as long as you want because you can smell them and you'll end up eating them quickly. We've got our glaze ready to rock. If you do let them cool all the way, then when you put the glaze on, it's not going to melt into it. I don't mind the glaze like seeping into it because I think that's delicious and I'm always eating them warm. But if you want the glaze to look really decorative on top, you gotta let it cool all the way. So here we go. Get the corners. You got the corners, you'll be getting in the middle. Whoa, that one got big. And you just want to make sure you're nice and thorough. Everyone's getting a good amount of glaze. Whoops. We'll clean up there. That's okay. Okay, we're golden. Okay, and then what you do is you grab the cinnamon roll, take it, stick it in your face. Mmm. So good. right. You can cut now.